Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Riv Readers podcast. I'm your host, Katie McFarland. This summer, we're talking with our own library staff to find out what they're reading. This interview is with Betty Graham, one of our evening reference librarians. Thank you, Betty, so much for joining me for this. How has your summer been so far?
Oh, it's been so busy.
Sports and
It's just, so
activities?
sports are finally over as of
Okay.
last night, hopefully, at least for a little while. But I guess we started a new sport, swimming, for my kids. So,
And are both of the boys doing it, or
yes, so they're
just,
both
yeah?
doing swimming, but
Awesome.
a break from soccer. So,
Yeah, there's so much soccer in your house.
yes,
That's awesome.
yeah, they did it last year and, you
Mm.
know, got some of the basic skills, but it's always good to to get a
Yes.
few more.
Yeah, just water safety is something that is like so important as a parent, to make sure
Yes.
your kids have that. Do you have any like trips planned or anything exciting coming up?
Nothing officially planned. We are hoping to go to Acadia, but it was one of those
Mm.
like we just haven't quite figured out when. And then we keep adding more things to the schedule. So it's like, well, we really got to make plans if we're going to be doing this.
Right.
So,
No, it's like the summer calendar fills up so fast.
yes, we did a bunch of national parks last year. So I was hoping to do some more this year.
That's
So,
right. You guys did the like national park passport thing, right?
yes. So we have one again now for Henry. So we're going to have to see how that goes. I don't think we'll get to as many this year.
Yeah, because you guys did quite the
But
road trip, right?
yeah, we went down to DC and stopped
Mhm.
on different parks along the way. So that was a
Mhm.
lot of fun. Yep. And there's always more of New England to explore. It's kind of
Yes.
crazy. I've lived here, in New England my whole life, but you never know what you're going to end up seeing or where you're going to find.
Exactly.
So,
No, there's so many cool things like tucked away that I'm a New England native too. And even within like little day trips that you can do. And I'm like, oh, never even heard of that before. Let's go check it
yes.
out.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to do a lot of more day trips this year.
Oh, that'll be great. Well, we can hop into reading.
Okay.
So, my first question was, what are some recent favorite reads?
I would say the most recent book I really enjoyed that I've already probably told you a little bit about was The Will of the Many,
Mm,
which was sort of this really involved fantasy book where I always love a good author that sucks you into the world, even when you're not really sure what's going on and what are the characters, and you're trying to like sort of get to know, well, what are the rules of this different, world
right.
and things like that. But I
Hmm.
found that this book just really sucked me in, for the ride. And it's a big book. I forget exactly how many pages
Yeah,
it is, but it's an investment that perhaps not for everyone. but
sure.
but I just, you get to know the characters and stuff. And so I enjoy a fantasy book like that versus like sometimes I try a book and it's like, I'm confused already. Like, who are these
Yes.
characters and what's going on? And wait, what is this magic spell for?
Well, and I feel like so many of them are trying to differentiate themselves or distinguish themselves and be like, this is not Harry Potter. This is how
Mm,
the magic works. And it's like they have to do so much building to establish just that it's not Harry Potter or
yeah,
it's not the Hunger Game, like try to break out of the mold that it's like then you're caught up trying to follow along and you're like, can't we just go back to those rules that
to
I
the
already get and
story.
understand?
Yeah.
I know on the cover and maybe some of the names too, I'm trying to remember. Is there like some like ancient Rome inspiration
There
too for the setting?
is, yeah. So that was sort of an interesting thing too, because like I don't know Latin that much, but I did study it a little bit in school. So it was kind of interesting to see some of the names of the people and the places. And
Mhm.
he does have like a glossary in the back, so you can look up like to try
That's
and tell the difference between the characters and what's going on.
that's so good
Um,
to know, and you never find out until like after you finish, and you're like, "Oh, that was
yeah.
there."
But
That would
also
have been
like
helpful.
I think the structure of the society, because there are, different classes and how they interact and how like people rise to power and become
Mm.
in charge of different factions and things. So that part's kind of interesting.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah. The other book I really enjoyed recently, sort of to switch gears here, is
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you've ever read anything by Tessa Bailey. So she would do like
No.
contemporary romance.
I've heard of her, I
Um,
feel like.
yeah, the book I was reading by her was called Fangirl Down. And
Okay.
I chose that one mainly because she's funny, so she does
Yep.
more like lighthearted rom-com type things. And this one I liked because it was about a professional golfer
Okay.
and the girl who follows him around to all his golf events with like the big sign and like,
Okay.
cheering him on even when he's doing terrible.
Oh.
And so it's a really cute book about like, this girl and how like, she's essentially this big fangirl for this
Mhm.
guy. And he like starts like having trouble with his career. So he's like this grumpy, thing. And she's trying to bring the sunshine,
We
and
love a
cheer
grumpy
him up.
sunshine.
Yeah. So that was sort of my like after reading, a more intense fantasy, I'm like, I need
Yes.
something kind of light,
Mm-hmm.
bring something silly to
And
read.
I've seen
So
more of those recently. I think that's like a whole little like subgenre is like athletic based rom-coms where it's
yes.
like I saw one where it was like a nanny for a professional hockey player or something. And like I've been seeing more of those, I feel like.
There's a lot of hockey for some reason. I'm
Yeah.
not sure why hockey took off in that, but
It's
yes.
so funny.
Yeah.
Just what ends up getting published and, what people are interested in writing about and
Yeah.
reading.
Well, I think for a little while, like there were people who were really into like the billionaire, as sort of like the
Sure.
man who like could do anything and has all the money. But nowadays, I
Mhm.
think people want more, I don't know, more lighthearted
Sure.
sports. Why not?
Even though professional hockey players, aren't too badly off financially
I
either.
know.
Yeah, like that wish fulfillment, of like, can afford whatever we want to.
Yeah.
And also have a romance in here.
Yep.
That's cool. I feel like, yeah, I think it was one by her that I had seen and I was like, oh, I'm gonna add this to my list, but I hadn't gotten to yet. So I'll have to
She has
check
a
her out.
couple of summer ones. I'm trying to think of the name of it. There's one where like
Okay.
a girl who's like a party girl goes back home to this small town or things like that where
Okay.
she tries to keep them pretty lighthearted, which I
That's awesome.
appreciate because sometimes you get into a
Yes.
book and you're like, oh, it's such a cute cover, but then you start reading the book and realize, oh, why does this have so many trigger warnings?
Oh no.
Sometimes nowadays it's like this isn't quite the story I thought it would be.
One of our facilities workers the other day was looking for a movie and it had a dog in it. And I was like, oh, there's this website called Does the Dog Die? And it like literally not only talks about does the dog die, but all these possible content warnings. And I find that really helpful. I can't remember if it has books on it too, but at
Hmm.
least for movies and stuff, it's like, okay, here are all the potential triggers and things that could set people off from like it's so helpful that they've just like compiled it and it's kind of crowdsourced too so like people will upvote stuff or like leave a comment about it but that's a really helpful website for that.
Yeah, that's good. I find sometimes, yeah, going and seeing other reviews of books so you can tell, like, is
Yes.
this going to be what I think it is? And people are
Mm-hmm.
usually pretty good about putting like spoiler, like they try
Exactly.
and word it so you can get a little hint without reading too far into the book.
Yeah, that's really helpful. So what are your favorite genres?
So I would say at least the past few years I've definitely gotten into romance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was like just being at home and, wanting to just read lighthearted,
Yeah.
romance things with happy endings for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I think sort of got me into that. Whereas in the past, I usually preferred more like historical, like not really tragedies, but like tougher subjects in
Sure.
books. And so it's interesting because sometimes a romance can bring in some tougher subjects, but still
Mm-hmm.
have like a happy ending. So I appreciate that. And I like getting into some of the like historical fiction as
Yep.
well sometimes. And
Definitely.
I would say more recently into some of the fantasy. Like I read it like years ago and then took a break for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess in some ways I'm all over the place.
No, it's good to be able to bounce around and like you said, kind of lighten things up if you've had some heavier reading and but then feel ready to get back into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was curious about this just because both Margie and Tina brought you up when I interviewed them and they were like, "Oh, Betty was talking about this book," or Betty was saying this about covers. And I was like, how much reading does Betty actually do per year? And so my next question is, how many books do you typically read in a year?
So I would say the past few years, I definitely increased the amount of books I read,
Uh-huh.
especially with the romance, because sometimes you get sucked into like a series where there's like,
Sure.
8 siblings or something. So it's like you pick up one book and you just plow through all of them. And it's like all of a sudden it's like, oh, what was I supposed to do today? Oh, never mind. I got to read and find out what happens to this character.
Yup.
Um, I have tried to also get into, I think, audiobooks, which has helped in a
Mm-hmm.
way consume more books because you can put them on and do the chores or like if you're
Yeah.
out like having for a drive or something like that And so I think that that has sort of increased the number of books. And also waiting in the pickup line at school.
Oh, I bet.
So I
God.
would show up with my book, and start reading. But then you got to make sure you pay attention. You don't want the car behind you to start honking because you're
Right.
wrapped up in the book you're reading.
So the
But
audiobooks can help because you're not actually physically looking at a print
yeah,
book.
at a print book. But then of course, then it's like the awkward like pause with the audiobook, and then you got to remember like, okay, I was listening to it on the car, and I got to make sure to unconnect my Bluetooth here before the kids get in.
Right?
One embarrassing moment with my dad once because I had forgotten I had the Bluetooth on, and for some reason, like he went to go start my car, and it started playing. Like,
Your
luckily this
romance book.
my romance novel, yeah. Luckily, I don't think it was like anything too bad, but like it
Right.
was still just sort of like, wait, what? Whoa! Why is my phone saying that the book is playing? Oops.
And then in addition to like, what is this person going to hear? But oh, it's going to lose my place. And then I have to go
Yes,
back and figure out where I left off.
yes. Have you ever fallen asleep listening to an audiobook?
No, I try not to listen to them at night.
I've learned that lesson too, where
Oh
it's like you
no.
wake up and all of a sudden it's like, oh, where was I? Like,
I
yeah.
have been using the sleep timer on Spotify, like not so much for
Oh,
audiobooks, but definitely for podcasts. I just started using that feature. I'm like, oh, okay, I can set it for like 30 minutes or 45 minutes. And that way also you don't wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, why is this still playing and what am I listening to?
yeah. So you brought me back to that original question, and I was trying to remember because I was gonna. I
Oh yeah.
think I did. I must have written it down last year, but I am.
Do you use like Goodreads or do you just track on like a spreadsheet?
Um, where is it? 211 for
What?
2023.
Wait, okay,
Yeah,
Betty.
that's probably a bit excessive.
That was like
Now that
so
does
far
count
above what I was.
also like novellas and like I don't
That
know.
is incredible.
It
Wow.
also means I probably have too much time on my hands during the
No,
day.
you have just the right amount of time. Fit all those
Yeah.
books.
Yeah, so I
Oh my
use
gosh.
I started off with Goodreads, but I
Mhm.
started using StoryGraph.
Okay.
I don't know
I
if
feel
you've
like
heard
I've
of
seen
that one.
that. I
Yeah,
haven't
I
investigated
I
it too
like
much.
the graphs for
So it
like
has
different
like
statistics and stuff.
a visual of your reading. Okay.
Yeah, and like tracks like
Ooh,
your authors and things and like what type of books that you're reading, the different genres, and I don't know. It's just
that
kind of
is so
a little
cool.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah, because I know Goodreads they'll do like an end of the year kind of thing, but it's not so much like charts and
Yeah,
graphs
this
and
one you can
stuff.
break down like month to month and you can see like you can sort of set your goal too. And so like I tried all
Wow.
right, so I admit I put my goal in for this year to only do 150 and I was going to try and pace myself and get into some other stuff. But I think
Uh-huh.
already I have not reached that goal. But I forget where it says, but it says like I'm ahead by 11 books.
Oh yeah, like for the
Um
pace that you need to hit
Yeah,
that.
so I'm like, all right, well,
Oh my
it is
gosh.
summertime, so I will be slowing down a bit because the
Sure.
childcare. But yeah, but I think it is interesting just to see like, yeah, how people are tracking their reading nowadays.
Oh,
Whether it's like through
impressive.
reviews, but also like it's just
Hmm.
sort of interesting. Now I don't do that many reviews, I admit.
Yeah.
Um,
I know more and more people are gravitating away from Goodreads just because, some people are kind of opposed that it's Amazon owns it. Some people are just saying what a toxic review bombing kind of community it's become. And I have mixed feelings because I was a very early member of Goodreads and became a librarian on there. And so I've just been with it for so long that I'm kind of like, meh, it's got everything that I want and need.
yeah.
But I have seen more and more of those kind of Goodreads alternatives popping up on social media and stuff. So I'll have to go check that out because that sounds really cool.
Yeah, that one's really cool. The other one I started with mainly because it also has like online book clubs is called Fable.
Fable. Okay.
Is an app that you can also do like book reviews and things, but it
Mhm.
also has like clubs, so you can see like a couple of like the more popular books that are out. Now, of course, as people
Mm.
say, "Oh, I'd love to join that club. Where can I get the book?" But the library only has like one copy of the
One
brand new book,
copy.
and you have to
Uh-huh.
wait. By that time you get it, the book club's already over, and so that
Sure.
can be frustrating. But you can. I like to search for books I already know I have and be like, "Is anyone else reading this book right now?"
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And then actually
Yeah.
have a discussion with people about it.
A little bit. I think it's sort of new, so there's some books and clubs have more discussion than others,
Hmm.
but it's still kind of nice that it's an option out there.
Yeah, because reading can be such a solitary pursuit. And it's like if you don't know anyone who's read the same books or is into the same kind of genres, you're kind of like, okay, that was cool. That was fun. Like, now what?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. You don't want your husband to have to hear all about it all the
Oh my
time.
gosh. Yeah. Mine's like, if I have to hear one more thing about Sarah J. Maas,
Yep.
I don't know how some people get their significant others to read, the books that they're reading. And I'm like, nope, mine's reading like nonfiction,
Yeah.
history books.
The one thing I was able to do is last summer there was a book that I think it was last summer that like all they had all of Nashua kids read like a book,
Hmm.
or Nashua does like a,
Nashua reads, yeah, through the
yeah, so
library.
they did that also with for like my kids' book. So we were able to get four
Hmm.
copies of it so the four of us could read it and discuss the book.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so
Like
that was
that.
that was really nice.
They must be starting that up again soon because I know they're doing the summer reading. The kickoff
Yep.
is in a few days.
So that's another fun way to track your reading is the summer reading programs.
Yes.
Great.
Wow. Well, I'm super impressed. You just blew me away. I'm like, if I hit, what did I hit 50 1 year and I was very impressed. That was
Mm,
pre having a child. And now I'm like, okay, like 35 is good.
yeah.
But that's awesome. I'm so impressed. So you answered one of my questions about whether you listen to audiobooks, but do you do ebooks at all?
I do for some. Like there are definitely books where it's like I always look to see like, well, do they have a physical copy first? Like I'm
Hmm.
probably definitely gonna go that way. Even to the point of sometimes ordering it interlibrary loan to be like, oh well, this other library has it. I'd rather
Yeah,
wait for the physical copy.
to have it
But
in print.
sometimes the convenience of having an ebook,
Yep.
it is nice, especially for traveling and stuff.
So not necessarily like a print traditionalist, kind of just whatever's available.
Whatever's available,
Yeah.
yeah. And sometimes it's fun because, you can find books by an author that you have in print, and then it's like, oh, but where's like this other series by them? But then you can find them in like the ebook form, so that way you can read
Yes.
more.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Well, my next question is, what is your favorite reading spot? I'm assuming not the line at school pickup.
No, probably not. There's one room in my house that I prefer to read in, and it depends on my mood if I want to sit on the couch. It also depends on the lighting, I think, in the room. So
Mm.
like on my couch that it's sort of like in the corner of the room and it does have a window near it. So like if I can get the natural light there, it works out. But it also has a lamp. So like especially in the winter and stuff, I like to read
Yep.
there for when it's dark out. But when it is like a nice day, there's a chair in like the other opposite side of the room that I like to curl up in.
Oh, nice.
Although I admit I've noticed though that one of the arms of the chair like is looking a little more worn than the other, and I realize it's like, oh, is it because like when I sit, I like curl up on that side?
That's the side you're leaning on. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I
so
was like,
funny.
it was an older chair from like my grandparents' house, anyways. But I was like, oh, I wonder if they just didn't sit in it that much. That could also be.
Reading related damage,
Yeah,
wear
it
and tear.
happens. The wear and tear on the furniture.
I love it.
Now that actually is next to the spot my son likes to use in the morning.
Hmm.
So before school, I try to like keep them off, the computer, electronics and all of
Sure.
that. Cause I was like, we got to get to school. So I was like,
Mhm.
but you can read your book, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't because then they have to
Okay.
put the book down.
Yeah.
But yeah, but he loves to curl up on the other side of that chair. So like sometimes if
Oh,
we're in the mood, we can sort of read together.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love the idea of like a family reading time. I've been trying to model that more with like actually reading print books because
Mm.
I'm like, if I'm reading an ebook or I have headphones on, my daughter doesn't really know what I'm doing, like can't really like piece that together. So I'm like, okay, I need to actually like have a print book and like bring it down to the couch and like open it up and have her see me reading. And I've been trying to just model that more. Well, my last question is I have a bunch of these would you rathers and I saved them when I started this podcast and I haven't actually asked anyone a would you rather question.
Oh,
So you're my first guinea pig for this
okay.
one. Would you rather have a book's ending spoiled for you or never know the ending?
I would rather have the spoiler. I'm probably one of those where like I don't know, say like you have to like return the book or something and it's going to get deleted
Mhm.
and you like, well, what if I can never get it again? Do I go ahead to the ending to find out what happens?
Mhm.
Because especially with the ebook, sometimes like you just have to return it. It disappears.
Right.
Even if like because like sometimes there's a book you start and it's just like I don't know if I'm going to make it all the way through, but I need to know what happens, so I'll go
Mhm.
and skip ahead to the end.
No,
I
I'm
hate
totally
I
with
hate
you.
I hate having to like start a book and then not know what happens, even if I don't like it
Right. Yeah,
sometimes.
no, I totally do the same thing. I would look it up.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll just read like a summary or like a plot synopsis of a book if it's popular and I feel like I should know what it's about, but I know that I'm never going to get around to reading it. I'm like, I'll just
Mm.
go look it up. So there's definitely books floating around that I'm like, oh yeah, I know what happens in that book, but I never read it. Anything else reading books related that you want to chat about or?
I think we covered it pretty much. I
Awesome.
will say I am not a bring a book to the beach person. Are you?
I could see that getting very sandy. I just kind of avoid the beach.
True. Or like if I'm going to the beach, it is the specific purpose. All right, I am here. We will
Yeah.
swim, we will dry off, we will leave. And that is the beach.
Well, and you share my fair skin problems where you're just slathering yourself in sunscreen constantly.
Yeah, or just hiding under the umbrella.
Yes, there's a lot of
Yeah.
hiding.
Like I tried to read like an ebook at the beach, but like I personally am like, no, that's reading at
Then
the
you've
beach
got
is not for
glare.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pictures of people like reading on the beach or people who bring these big books, I'm like, why? I don't get it.
If it was like a tropical beach and like you're in the Caribbean and it's like a very secluded, quiet island and you have all day or something, maybe some shade, I could see that. Yeah.
Maybe, but
Yeah. Under a palm tree. Not Hampton.
no, no, not a New England beach, probably.
No. If you'd like to follow us on social media, we are at Regina Library on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. We're also on TikTok at regina.library. You can always reach us through our website too. It's been great having you here, and we'll see you again soon.